Well, as my young protege there likes to say, this weekend in the mid majors was insane. And the rest of it wasn't that normal either. Fair enough?
Absolutely fair enough. I think right now we're seeing really the pressure getting to some teams,
Mhm.
and people are starting to ramp it up because they know postseason's looming right now.
You, of course, had the match, Nebraska-Wisconsin. Another one that didn't go past three sets. Um, the thing that impressed me the most, again, just like the first time those two teams played, was how many slowdowns above the net that Nebraska made. All
Yeah.
other things were mostly equal except for the Wisconsin libero situation because of
Yeah.
injuries, and that kid was, put in a tough spot. But
Yeah.
those two things jumped out at me the most.
Yeah, I think going to the libero situation for Wisconsin, I think it's really difficult when you're a third string libero thrown into your biggest rivalry match with Minnesota last Wednesday, and then also against your second biggest rival in Nebraska. And the stage is so big, and you're expected to be, nearly perfect because if you aren't, all eyes are on you. I thought, in general, Wisconsin really struggled passing, honestly, in both of those matches, but especially in the Wisconsin one, I think you could, or in the Nebraska one rather, you could see, even Sarah Franklin kind of jumping in front of Damrow to take balls. So you could see just that disconnect in terms of communication and connection, which is something people don't talk about enough on serve receive. Like you talk about setter hitter connections, but serve receive back there, it's all communication and connection as well. You have to trust the person next to you, and you can see that kind of fall apart. But to your point on Nebraska's block, I mean, this was something we talked to Cook about honestly a month or two ago, and we were asking him, the defensive numbers for your team, they've been down since they were the last two seasons. They had led the country in opponent hit percentage the last 2 years, and this year, while their defense has been great, the numbers weren't the same. And he kind of talked about how, yes, maybe the defensive like numbers specifically aren't there, but one, the talent's a lot better across the country, and two, he said those touches were the biggest thing that's impressed him because yeah, maybe they aren't getting as many stuffs as they did and
Yeah.
scoring points that way, but they're getting so many good touches off the block. And I agree, that was really impressive. The backcourt had it somewhat easy because they were able to touch up a ton, especially on the pins. I thought Nebraska defended Wisconsin's pins incredibly well, which is tough to do.
It's funny you mentioned because on our poll, which came out earlier today, the Volleyball Mag Super 16 media poll, the picture I took was from the Nebraska-Wisconsin match, and it's got Harper Murray coming
Yeah.
across Olivia Mock to make the pass,
Yeah.
and Mock is sort of like looking right there, and Murray made the play. Speaking of which, the things tightened up quite a bit in our poll.
Yeah.
Now 6 votes each for Pittsburgh and Nebraska. You were one of the ones voting for Nebraska number one.
I've been voting for Nebraska number one for the last, I want to say 5 weeks. I think their resume speaks for itself. They've played a much tougher schedule than Pitt has. They've also had a lot more big wins than Pitt has.
I figure I've been voting Pitt one, and Pitt hasn't done anything to diminish that record. Pitt hasn't
Fair.
lost a set since October 27th.
No,
Uh,
and I don't disagree. I think, to
yeah,
be honest, when you look on paper, Pitt's dominating right now. And I think, to me personally, eye test wise, I've seen both teams play live multiple times, and Pitt looks like the better team to me. But to me, Nebraska's resume speaks volumes.
absolutely. Well, and then Louisville stayed three. Penn State and Creighton switched. All Creighton did was sweep a couple matches to finish undefeated in the Big East. I still had them at three, but Penn State four, Creighton five, and then we had a tie at six, Wisconsin and Stanford, and then Arizona State, SMU, Kansas, Purdue, Texas, Kentucky, and 14 Oregon. Coincidentally, exactly as I say that, good friend of ours, Matt Ulmer, the Oregon coach, is joining us because we wanted to talk to him not only about his Ducks, but also a good cause. Hi, Matt.
What's up? Good
Yeah,
morning. Thanks for having me.
yeah,
Good
being here on the
morning.
Eastern time zone,
Utah, Northwestern, and Oregon. What a trio. That's it.
well, and I'm still,
You
Beth
have
gets
a shirt from us. I don't need your pitch. I know you have a shirt.
yeah.
If you
See, I
want a
don't need
second
your
one, if you want
soliciting.
green or something, let me know. Okay. But
Okay, always. How often? I always see you when I bug you. I say, "Come on."
yeah, I know.
No, you
Yeah.
actually, no, fair, fair. I have one of the best shirts I own is an Oregon shirt that Matt gave me 2 years ago at Minnesota. It's a fabulous shirt. Fabulous.
We do that well, you know? We do that well.
Oh, Phil Knight and his friends put out some fine stuff. And
we know a guy.
Yeah. So before we talk volleyball, tell us about the Big Ten volleyball mentorship program that was a Pac-12 program that was so cool. We had a story about it, but of course the Pac-12. Anyway, take it from there and you got the floor.
Okay, yeah, Tarita Stubbs from Arizona, Kevin Hambley from Stanford, and myself. We started the Pac-12 Diversity Mentorship Program. It's a great program, and we have 14 alumni now. We had 4. We started out with 6, 4 each last couple of years, and the Pac-12, has gone through some restructuring, and so Sharita is now in the Big 12, and Kevin is in the ACC, and we're in the Big 10. So we're trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we? It's a great program. And, we want it to keep going. The alumni want it to keep going. And so I went to the Big Ten and I said, hey, this is what we're doing. Our very first meeting, with the coaches and administration, and everybody was on board like that. And huge support from the conference. The coaches of the conference are incredible humans. And it's something that absolutely they're all behind. And what a conference to be able to do this and bring this to. I'm really excited for the mentees moving forward. So what we have is it's a year-long program starting January 1. And it'll basically end a convention next year. And so we pair a mentee with a mentor coaching staff. And so for this next year, we have Michigan State, Ohio State, and USC are the 4 mentor staffs that will take on a mentee and basically just have a relationship with them. Every other week they chat, but really they can text whenever. It's like you have a person, you have a staff, just really to bounce ideas off of. But every other week is a Zoom call with a different coaching staff in the Big Ten. And then the other week is going to be with an administrator. Generally, it's an SWA from that same school. So like if Nebraska is January, you're going to have John Cook and company, and then you're going to have, the SWA from Nebraska. And it'll be a bunch of different topics. And so the idea is professional growth, but also it's networking, right? And so for a lot of the people that will, try to apply, it might be they want to become an assistant coach. And so it's really important for them to get to know all the coaching staffs in the conference. But for some, it's going to be they want to become a head coach or get that better head coaching job or a different head coaching job for them. And so really they need access to administrators to make that happen. And so I think that's a really neat part of it. Some people, they'll want to maybe have a goal of being an administrator. And so this is a great, avenue for them. But that's the bulk of it. And then you're going to have, we're going to pay for you to go to convention at the end of the year for more professional development there. You'll be a part of the group that they have at the convention for the whole week. We'll do a social at convention with all our coaches, and we'll bring as many other coaches, just again, try to help network. And then we do the same at nationals. And then we have, it was True North with Celia Slater, but now it's restructured to TLC. And that's just, again, professional growth. So many coaches, we didn't get our degree in coaching, so this is a great avenue for us to continue to learn about actually what are we doing, about our profession. And you get an accreditation in coaching that way. And so I think that's pretty neat. I've done it before and I really enjoyed it. Go ahead.
Okay, well, no, you get to talk about that, but now you have to talk about volleyball quick before we kick you out of here.
Okay.
So what have you're not naive to the Big Ten being a Midwesterner, but what have you learned this year?
So many things. I think I'll probably, really reflect later on, but just the rhythm of the conference is so different. We're we only have one practice this week and then we play. And then we did that last week, and it's just so all over the place. So it's really interesting to figure out how to train, how to get better throughout the year. In the Pac, we were Friday, Sunday, and so you had 3 days of practice, like clockwork. And I feel like you were able to string some things together and maybe grow. So this feels more like you're trying to keep everybody feeling good, healthy, have your lineup out there and have some cohesion. But I think it's a test to coaches to how to practice plan to grow. But I mean, playing in these gyms that are sold out and the atmospheres and, just the opportunities to play top teams all the time and play against great coaches. I feel like what a gift it is for our student athletes. And, hopefully that will just prepare us here for the home stretch.
Yeah, it seems like that's a perfect preparation point. You're playing, in the toughest gyms and the toughest environments against the toughest teams. So we're excited to watch you continue here in December.
Awesome.
You finish up with regular season with he scrolls down.
We got Purdue on Wednesday, and then we're at UCLA on Friday.
Right, and we've got you 14 in this our poll this week. You're coming in at 17 in the RPI. So obviously, this is a big week for you to try to get that top 16 seed.
I think it's just always about, we just need to keep getting better, right? Especially for our group. Like, we're still learning so much. I know it sounds silly, but we're still learning so much about each other, even at this point. So we got one more week to try to get to the best point we can, and then get ready for the tournament. But yeah, I mean, Purdue coming to our place, I don't think they've ever been to our place. And hopefully, that'll be a great match. And then always, going to UCLA is always tough. So every week is hard in the conference. So I think it's horrible for coaches and great for players.
Give Shondell a tour of that locker room. The facilities are nice at Purdue, but when he sees the Oregon locker room, just make sure you give it to him.
We'll show him around a little bit. Yeah, we can do that.
Thanks, man. Great to catch up.
December 6th is the deadline for applications for the mentorship program. Okay.
December 6th.
Yeah, get on it. Thank you all.
Yeah, Matt.
Have a good one. Bye.
We also are going to go back to talking about mid-majors, because UT Arlington coach JT Wenger is going to join us in a bit. They've won 20 in a row, down 14-11 in the 5th to Grand Canyon, and it all could have gone poof, but it went poof for so many teams. Emily, this weekend, Southeastern Louisiana, the longest winning streak in the country, cruised through the Southland Conference, and then lost to Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And Steve Green, their coach, their nickname is the Islanders, was wearing the coolest golf shirt, Hawaiian kind of style shirt they swept at Southeastern. And then I had been out, and you text me from the Lincoln Airport.
Yeah.
Dayton. And I was like, if there was one team in the mid that I thought was going to win, so much as get swept, just blown right out of their gym by Chicago. There goes one at-large bid. Yeah.
Well, yeah. When you think Dayton right now, they're at number 14 in the RPI, so clearly they're getting in. And right now there's always 30 at-large bids with how the conference is shaken out. So essentially now there's only 29 at-large bids, which is a very small window, especially when you look at, the power conferences right now just in the top 60. Now, normally you need to be like somewhere around the top 60. This year, probably 50, but in the 60, SEC has 10, Big Ten has 9, ACC has 10, and Big 12 has 7. So already right there, that's 36 for a 29 at large.
Well, look if you go in the RPI right now, if you start getting into the late 40s, okay, like UTA we just talked about is 45. Then Pepperdine is 46, and Pepperdine's going to need an at-large probably to come out of the West Coast Conference. Florida Gulf Coast at 47 has already won it. NC State is 48, and you're pushing it at the ACC there. How many teams do you get in? Wright State is at 49. Wright State, I thought, was a lock to win the Horizon League, and got upset. And then South Carolina at 50. Arkansas State's at 51. So JT's here with us. Let's bring him in, and I want to remind him when he gets here, through the slowness of Zoom, he's coming. It says he's coming. No, it says no video, no microphone, but eventually. That has been a program that he has very incrementally made better and better and better. And Emily, you've never seen the Mavs play, but you've been in their gym 2 summers in a row for Volleyball Nations League.
Yeah, it's a fun gym to play in. Definitely exciting I think it's set up really well. And I mean, I don't know, I'm excited for this program because it's difficult to come back like that when your back's against the wall, and definitely interested to hear from Coach on that.
JT, do your kids know you don't get paid by the set?
You're muted.
Yeah.
There we go. I should definitely share that with them. That's right.
So you've had this unbelievable season. Your 20-win winning streak. Just everything's going great, and all of a sudden you're down 14-11 to Grand Canyon in the 5th. What are you thinking?
This isn't looking good.
What do you say in the huddle at that point?
Yeah, I think we've done a real nice job all year of adjusting the lens, adjusting perspective as we need to. If you're down 14-11 and you're thinking about what happens after that next ball falls, it's too late. So we really focus on one ball at a time sometimes. So super sharp, super narrow focus, take care of the one play that you can, and hope there's another play that you get to make.
Who did you see really step up in that moment to end up rolling off 5 straight?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a team effort, no question. I mean, starting from the service line, Samantha Glenn put balls into the court, into seams, and gave us an opportunity for it. As blockers, Bree Ford and Sophie Ocampo were up there towards the end that made some plays when they needed to. A big side out we had, I think, to get our 12th point. Paige Rager made a real nice route on a 31, which opened up a seam, which allowed Bree Ford to bury a ball. So it was really, all the way around. Shacky Donker's back row, taking care of some good balls, and Molly putting the ball where it needed to be. So it was a great effort by everybody.
Brianna Ford's had an All-American season. I mean, she's just been match in and match out the stud for you, huh?
Yes, that's exactly right. And I think the difference this year from last year, her not great nights were still really, really good nights. And just the maturity, her physicality, the way she's approached the game, the way she's kind of interacted, and I think she really learned over the last 2 years that she can have a great night, but you need a whole team, and that's something that she's embraced, and it's been very evident this season.
Well, it's been a record year, first conference championship since 2002 and the first WAC title in program history. How have you kind of worked to build this program up?
Yeah, I think, one thing is starting with the NIVC in 2019. The idea of this program's goal is to play after Thanksgiving. So that was kind of a starting point of it. And then we had a really significant 2019 freshman class and 2020 freshman class that came in before COVID kind of changed everything a little bit. But I think it's been years in the making, and understanding that, no, we are not done in mid-November. We are trying to play volleyball in December.
So
I love that. It's that mentality switch that can be tough because, players that assume maybe they're not going to get there are okay and comfortable with the season ending, but to have that mindset switch of, no, we want to continue playing and this is our goal year after year, I think I agree is really important.
Oh, sorry. I got a text there from Matt Ulmer to put a link in the story from the mentorship program he was talking about. So for those of you still watching,
Thanks, Matt.
JT, we were just talking right before you got on about over this past weekend, how many teams on long winning streaks and favorites at the mid-major levels lost. Howard lost, was on, I think it was 14-0 in the MEAC. Lost the MEAC. We mentioned Dayton. Southeastern had the longest winning streak in the country. I mean, there were there's so many other upsets and unpredictabilities. I mean, Cleveland State beats Green Bay. I think that's a 3-4 in the horizon. Western Michigan, a 4 seed, wins the MAC, and the MAC is you're well versed in the art of MAC. How are you able to sustain the mental, kid, you say focus or whatever it is, but to be able to sustain a winning streak like that and then do what you did?
Well, we've been joking for 31 matches that the next match we play is the most important match of the year. So when we kind of finally got to some that felt a little bit different than the others, we've had that discussion where, we've already played 30 most important matches of the year. But that whatever you do next, that's the one that you have the most control over, the one you can prepare for the most, at least. So I think in some ways it relative to the focus, sometimes we zoom out and we look at, okay, this is what's coming up in the next 3 weeks. Other times it's, okay, we have the next 3 hours. Let's focus on the next 3 hours.
I know that the goal for your team has been just to make the tournament over the last few seasons. Okay, so you've done that, you can check that off. But now, how do you switch that mindset to, okay, now we're here, now we want to go make a run?
Yeah, no, it's exciting for sure. We're in a position where there's seemingly a pretty good chance that we're not going to play the host institution also. So I think that gives us a little bit more opportunity to have a neutral site. Assuming we'll be somewhere in Texas, there's maybe a shot that we have some people rooting for us there, which would be cool. But this week, we'll get some workouts in, let everybody go home for Thanksgiving, and then get back at it on Sunday.
Yeah, you won't go far. You'll go to Texas. You'll go to SMU. You'll go, whatever, maybe TCU. If TCU, how far are you from TCU? It's got to be pretty close.
It's about 25 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're in the hot. Well, everything. There's no such thing as a short drive in the Metroplex. If I'm going from here to there, it's a half hour. Lot of Texas teams. I just want to say this before you go. I mean, you and I have been friends and known each other a really long time, and what I've always respected is that you've done things the right way, built the program incrementally, and then the players have always bought in. And through all the changes, I mean, you've changed conferences, and the travel that you've had to put up with and everything else, and here you are. So good for you.
Thank you, Lee. I certainly sincerely appreciate that.
Well, thanks for joining us. And now Emily and I get to the really inane part of 900 square feet. Luckily, you get to go.
Good luck,
Thanks,
guys.
Coach.
Thanks, JT. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge mid-major, lover. I mean, I just have always had a great appreciation for it. And that started for me when I went to Southern Illinois University 100 years ago, which was in the Missouri Valley Conference, and has always been. And I just have always loved the Valley, which is in progress right now. Northern Iowa, another one of those teams riding a winning streak. And a couple other conference tournaments. South Dakota State, I think, plays tonight, finally in the Summit League. And I remember they were one of those teams. They had the last undefeated team. But
that you refused to put in your top 16, even though you promised them you would.
Oh, I know. But thank goodness I wore the Canisius volleyball shirt last week, because Tom Hanna and the Golden Griffins went into the semifinals, lost to Fairfield, which is one of those teams that held on and won. So before we get to volleyball again, how are things in the laptop buying business?
Oh, God. Yeah. So, I mean, look, my laptop over the last 2 months really only works when I have it plugged in. It maybe works for like a half hour. If I don't have it plugged in, it runs out of battery really quick. So I was all over the place last week. I was at the Wisconsin-Minnesota match on Wednesday, flew to Penn State Thursday, did interviews Friday, and I'm at the Harrisburg airport on Friday night, headed to Lincoln to do the Wisconsin-Nebraska game on Saturday. I'm working at the airport for, I don't know, an hour and a half because I had a little bit of time to kill, and whatever, shut my laptop. I get on the plane, open my laptop again to continue to work. It doesn't turn on, which happens all the time. I'm like, okay, great, it's out of battery. So I plug it in the whole flight, still doesn't turn on. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's just, the voltage or whatever doesn't match up and I can't charge it. Fine. So I get to Lincoln, plug my laptop in for like an hour and a half, still doesn't turn on. And I'm like, this is perfect. Before like the biggest match of the year, my laptop completely crashes, doesn't turn on. So I had to go to Best Buy in the morning and bought a laptop, just a completely new laptop. And luckily, the saving grace of all of this is all of my notes in charge for every game and every team are on Google Drive. So I could just log in and it was fine. It really wasn't the biggest deal. And I ended up getting a Black Friday sale and got a nice laptop. So all that to say, it was incredibly annoying. But yeah, my laptop fully crashed before the biggest match of the year. So that was fun.
Big time travel. So how does one get from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to Lincoln, Nebraska?
Good question. Well, I was doing interviews with Penn State in State College, and I would normally just fly out there, but those flights are like $8,000. So I had to drive 2 hours to Harrisburg, fly from Harrisburg to Chicago, and then Chicago to Lincoln. So there's obviously no direct there. But I will say I did a sit down interview with Katie Schumacher-Colley from Penn State, who has Penn State's on their best run since 2017, and Katie was diagnosed with breast cancer in September, and has been fighting that while leading this team to one of their best seasons in the last 10 years. And she was incredible. I mean, her ability to open up and be vulnerable, yet be so positive and bubbly, and just her energy. I was so impressed, and I can't thank her enough for sitting down with me and having that conversation, because I think it was a really important one to have. So I just wanted to say thank you to Penn State and especially Katie for letting me do that.
No, she's wonderful, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's I hope she's ready to take off the hat and go bald coaching. She sent me a picture of herself she looks great. She looks great with the hat. She looks great.
I mean, she sat down and I was like, girl, I was like, you are glowing. It's like, you actually look stunning right now. But yeah, no, I just so much respect for what she's doing and how she carries herself. I mean, it was just so admirable and inspiring. It was incredible. Also, something we didn't mention from last week, I finally got a 5-setter, Lee, after begging for one.
True. Yes, and there were some pretty funny jokes about after we did this, and we joked about it on your Twitter, and people responding to you. But yes, you did get a 5-setter.
Finally got one. Wisconsin took down Minnesota in 5. And of course, we get like 2 5-set border battles this year. It was so fun. I mean, it also was an 8 p.m. Central game on a Wednesday. So it was pretty late. I had a 2.5-hour drive later. So we get through the first set and I'm like, I wouldn't be like super mad if this went 3, because I got to drive. I got a flight in the morning. Like, it is what it is. And it's always those matches where you like maybe hope that it's short. They always end up going 5. And this one went the extra mile. It was a 20-18 fifth set. But it was so fun. I mean, that environment is unmatched at the field house. And especially the way that it ended. Wisconsin ended scoring 4 straight blocks when they were scoring. And that just did so much for momentum, and the place was erupting. Like, I didn't really have to say anything at the end, which, made my job easy. But it was so much fun. It was really cool for me to see Charlie Furbringer in that kind of setting as a freshman setter really come alive, because it was the same kind of environment when they played Nebraska about a month prior. And you could tell she was just wide-eyed, like, this is a lot. So to see the strides and steps that she has made in the last month, I thought was really cool to see her step up like that. And you could really see her maturity shine through.
I do have to tell you, there was one match this past week. It was Georgia Tech at Florida State, and they just had the cameras. There were no announcers.
Oh,
And
really?
you could barely even hear the PA announcer. You just heard the
Oh,
crowd.
God.
That was different and interesting.
Yeah. Well, Georgia Tech took 2 tough losses this week. I mean, now they're out of hosting.
Absolutely. A couple of quick notes. So, we mentioned Texas A&M Corpus Christi beat Southeastern Louisiana to win the Southland bid. There's a reserve freshman named Virginia Vanderwerf. She's from Lansing High School in Kansas, which I'm not even sure where in Kansas that is. However, her sister, junior Olivia May Vanderwerf, plays at College of Charleston, and they won the CAA. And
Oh,
Utah
fun.
is going to get a bid, has 5th-year middle, Amelia Vanderwerf. So we're going to have 3 sisters in the tournament.
Are you
And
doing another sister story?
Well, I'm not going to write one, but I did put the note in. I mean, the
Yeah.
Chacones might be the last time that might have happened, I think, from Florida State and wherever else, but I don't even know if they had 3 at the same time. The other story that I was watching while it was unfolding was Cleveland State playing Green Bay, and I realized that Laken Voss, the outside hitter, is the daughter of Chuck Voss, the coach, and she got the match-winning kill. And how cool! And she grew up in the gym. Her dad's gym at Cleveland State has been there a long time. And then, Emmy Klika's the libero for Pittsburgh, and her little sister Lainey is libero for Wofford, which
Yeah.
is one of those upsets. They beat High Point to win the Big South, and
Stealing bids left and right.
just it was nuts. Western Kentucky won 24 in a row now, and one of the teams that has that streak going, and I guess second longest streak to Nebraska now.
Yeah.
And
They're
Creighton's
at
won
20,
21 in a row in the Big East. Anyway, let's get out of here on what is an absolutely incredible week coming up. I mean, we finish up the
Yeah.
regular season with a big time flourish.
Yeah.
And Emily writes them all out. I have the schedules all up, but Wednesday, the most important match is the 2 p.m. Clemson at Boston College, because I can go to that one and still get home in time to watch Pittsburgh at Louisville. But also that day, Tennessee at Texas, big RPI game, big seed game for Texas. Kentucky at Missouri. Missouri, I'm sure, is going to fall out of the rankings. They were 25 last week in the AVCA. SMU at Florida State, who's slowly put itself in the picture.
Yeah.
Purdue at Oregon, which we talked about earlier with Matt Ulmer, and BYU at Kansas. That's a big match for both teams in the Big 12. Do you have any of the Wednesday matches?
Yes, but none of those. I have Ohio State at Wisconsin, which essentially has no meaning for postseason implications.
Only if Wisconsin loses.
Yeah, well, if Wisconsin, I mean, sure, but to be honest, they would still host if they lost that one.
Yeah, Oklahoma at Arkansas, which is another one that day, and then Miami at NC State. Someone gave me, I put in there about winning at home in their little bandbox, and somebody on one of the chat boards gave me a hard time about that. I'm sorry, if you're a Power 4 team and you play home matches in volleyball, the setter, if they bump set a high ball, it shouldn't hit the rafters.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it's also just like
it's not a slight at this. Miami's got wonderful players, and it's a good team and super well coached.
The fans are incredible. I mean, I did a match there last year. Their fans were wild in the best way. Like, it was the most fun atmosphere, but like, yeah, the gym could use an upgrade. That's super fair to say.
Yeah. Friday, Thanksgiving Day, nobody's playing. But Friday, there's a pretty good one.
Yeah, there is. Nebraska at Penn State. That one I do have.
Good.
I'm excited. The way that things are shaking out, it's going to be a really fun end to the Big Ten season. Right now, both Nebraska and Penn State have a path to either clinch the title outright or at least a share of it. For Penn State, they have to beat Nebraska to win a share, and they have to beat Rutgers on Wednesday. But the way that things are going to shake out, it's going to be fun. But it really is all going to come down to what happens on Friday. If Nebraska beats Penn State, they win the title outright, and it's done. If Penn State wins it, then they would essentially share the title based on how things will probably shake out. But I mean, it's going to be fun. The match has been sold out for like 2 months, and which is really cool because it's a Friday after Thanksgiving. There's obviously not going to be students there. But it's going to be a really tough environment to play.
Speaking of Rutgers, they won't go over at the expense of your Wildcats.
Yeah.
Rutgers
You know
got
what's tough about that was like, shout out to Rutgers. I love Caitlin Schweihofer. She's one of my favorite coaches. They have great players. But I am bummed for my Cats because it was senior night and Rutgers hadn't won a game yet. So that was a bummer.
Saturday, Georgia Tech at Pittsburgh, Louisville at Stanford.
Louisville's got a tough week.
Yeah. And then you got, a couple that are important in the RPIs, Auburn at Missouri and SMU at NC State, which is NC State's playing for its life.
Yeah, I'm looking at that Auburn and Missouri one because Auburn right now is at 53 in the RPI. Mizzou's at 23. So to be honest, if Auburn doesn't win that, I don't know if they get in.
No, Auburn had a big victory earlier in the season, and it was like on a Friday, and they were playing again Sunday, and Emily said, let's get Brent on. And I said, let's wait and see what happens. And then they went on like a 7-match losing streak or whatever.
Yeah,
it happens. It happens.
They have the potential to be so good. And I think that's a matchup they can absolutely win. I think it's tough because they don't play at home. But it'll be good. And I mean, again, another big week for Auburn. Like, I think they have to win that match to get in, and we'll see how it shakes out. But honestly, the Nebraska-Penn State one obviously is the really big one I'm looking at. And then Pitt at Louisville, that's going to be really fun because it's at Louisville. And then Louisville has to turn around a few days later and play at Stanford, which is obviously a tough trip to make. So we'll see if Louisville can hang on because that has a lot of hosting implications. If Louisville loses both of them, I think Creighton slides on up.
Well, we have to wrap this up because the Pro Volleyball Federation draft is going on YouTube, and I'm going to put that on just because out of curiosity. And
yeah,
we haven't even talked about this off the air. Are we going to get together Sunday night after the selection show and do our annual show?
Heck yeah, I'm free.
All right, good. Find us then.
It's perfect because I have a hair appointment on Monday, and yeah, that those take all day.
Thank you both for putting up with us and watching.